The kitchen door was open just enough. I was coming back from the bathroom at a family dinner. My mother-in-law Margaret's voice carries. It always has. I heard my name first, then the rest. Her family has no class. I don't know what he was thinking. I stopped walking. The pie in my hands was still warm. My mother's recipe. Apple. I had spent 2 hours on the crust alone. I stood there for a full minute. Margaret kept talking. Something about weddings. Something about the right people. I did not hear the rest. I just heard class. No class. That word. I did not bring the pie inside. I turned around, walked back, through the hallway, past the coats, past the bathroom, out the front door. I sat in my car in the driveway for 10 minutes. The pie sat next to me. Then I drove home. I was 31 years old. I am 42 now. I have never told anyone what I heard. Not my husband. Not my father. Not my mother. I kept it, like a stone in my pocket, for 11 years. Tonight I am taking it out. Because here is what Margaret did not know. My father built a company from nothing. His hands. His name. His risk. That company employed Margaret's husband for 11 years. Not as a favor. As a job. A good job. A job that paid for the house she was standing in while she talked about my family having no class. She did not know. None of them knew. I made sure of that. I kept the secret. Not to protect her. To protect the moment. The moment when I would finally set the record straight. That moment is coming. I can feel it. My name is Maya. I am 42 years old, and I have been carrying a secret for 11 years. Not a secret about money or affairs. A secret about class. The word my mother-in-law used to describe my family while I stood in her hallway holding a pie I baked myself. My father built a manufacturing business from our garage when I was a child. I remember the smell of grease and coffee. I remember him coming inside at midnight with blueprints under his arm. 30 years later, that company had 200 employees and a building with his name on it. He sold it when he retired. That is the family Margaret said had no class. Frank started working for my father when the company had 15 people. He stayed until it had 200. 11 years. He was loyal. He was good at his job. He never missed a day. I met my husband at a company picnic when I was 25. Frank introduced us. He said this is the boss's daughter, and he said it with respect. My husband did not know then that his mother would someday call my family classless. He did not know a lot of things. I remember asking my father about Margaret once. Years ago. Before I married into the family. I said Frank's wife seems nice. My father paused. He said Margaret? She is particular. I asked what that meant. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said she thinks she married beneath her. She does not know Frank's job is the only reason they have the house they have. I did not ask my father what he meant. I understood. Margaret was ashamed of her husband's work. And her husband's work was my father's company. The company that paid for her kitchen. Her backyard. The dining room table where she served dinner to her family while I stood in the hallway with the pie. I filed that information away. I did not know how much later I would need it. I did not know I would need it at all. But I kept it. Like a receipt you do not throw away because something about the purchase still does not feel right. 11 years later, I still have that receipt. And I am finally ready to use it. I told Daniel on a Tuesday. We were sitting on the couch. I said, I am not going to your parents' house for a while. He looked up from his phone. He asked why. I said I need a break. That was all I gave him at first. He asked if something happened. I said your mother said something. About my family. I do not want to talk about it. He put his phone down. He said she says things. She does not mean them. I looked at him. I said she meant this. He asked what she said. I said it does not matter. He said if it is making you not want to see them, it matters. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said she said my family has no class. Daniel opened his mouth. He said, I am sure she did not. I cut him off. I was standing in the hallway. I heard her.
She meant it.
He did not say anything for a minute. Then he said maybe she was talking about something else. I said no. She was talking about my family. Your father was standing there. He did not say anything either. Daniel asked when this happened. I said 11 years ago. He stared at me. 11 years? You have been holding on to this for 11 years? I said yes. He asked why I never told him. I said because I did not know what to do with it. Now I do. I did not tell him about the pie, about the driveway, about the 10 minutes I sat in my car before I drove home. I said what I needed to say and stopped. Daniel would either believe me or he would not. I could not control that. He ran his hands through his hair. That is what he does when he is frustrated. He said my mother is difficult. I know that. But she is not malicious. I said I did not say she was malicious. I said she said my family has no class. Those were her words, not mine. He asked what I wanted him to do. I said I do not want you to do anything. I am telling you why I am not going over there for a while. That is all. He nodded. Then he said I will talk to her. I said do not. He asked why not. I said because she will deny it, or she will say she was joking, or she will cry, and you will feel bad, and nothing will change. I have seen this movie before. I know how it ends. Daniel was quiet. I could see him trying to find a way to fix it. That is who he is. A fixer. But this was not his to fix.
His mother said what she said.
I heard what I heard. 11 years had passed. The words had not aged. They had just settled, like dust on a shelf.
I was done dusting around them.
I was going to move the shelf. And Daniel could either stand next to me or stand in the middle. I did not know which he would choose.
I was not going to ask.
I was just going to watch. I called Elena the next day. We have been friends since college. She knows about my father's company. She knows about Frank working there. She knows about the kitchen because I told her 2 years ago. I had to tell someone. Elena was the someone. I told her I finally told Daniel. She said about the kitchen? I said yes. She asked how he took it. I said he wanted to fix it. She laughed.
Of course he did.
Then she said 11 years ago? You have been holding this for 11 years? I said I did not know what to do with it. She said you could have told her. You could have told anyone. I said I wanted to, but I did not want to be the one who made it a thing. Elena was quiet for a second. Then she said she made it a thing. You just did not respond. I sat with that for a minute. She was right. Margaret made it a thing the moment she opened her mouth in that kitchen. I just decided the thing was mine to carry. I put it in my pocket and walked to my car. I did not have to do that. I could have walked back into the kitchen with the pie. I could have set it on the counter and said actually, my family has plenty of class. Enough to employ your husband for 11 years. But I did not. I chose silence. Elena asked what I was going to do now. I said I did not know. I have been thinking about it for 11 years. I still do not know. She said your father employed her husband for 11 years. She called your family classless. Those two facts are connected. She just does not know it. I said I know. Elena said, so maybe it is time she found out. I did not answer. She did not push. That is why we are still friends after all these years. She names the thing. She does not make me do anything about it. She just makes sure I am looking at it. And I have been looking at this thing for 11 years. The stone in my pocket. The word class. The irony that Margaret's husband worked for my father while Margaret looked down on my family. The asymmetry is the point. She does not know. And I have been protecting her from the knowledge. Not because I am kind. Because I did not want to be the one who said it out loud. But I am 42 now. And I am tired of carrying stones. I am tired of protecting people who did not protect me. Elena asked what the difference is between holding a grudge and holding the truth. I said, I do not know. She said, I think you know. You just do not want to admit which one you have been doing. I hung up. I sat in my living room. I thought about the pie, the driveway, the 11 years. She was right. I knew. I just did not want to say it. Not yet. But soon. The retirement party came together fast. Frank had been talking about retiring for years. He finally picked a date. Margaret was planning the party.
Of course she was.
Daniel told me over breakfast. My father was invited. He said he would like to come. He always liked Frank. They worked together for 11 years. My father respected him. I realized something as I finished my coffee. My father would be in the same room as Margaret for the first time since our wedding. She had met him before. At the rehearsal dinner. At the ceremony. But she did not know he was the owner.
Not really.
Or she had forgotten. People like Margaret forget things that do not fit their story. My father was just the boss's daughter's father. Not the man who signed Frank's paychecks for 11 years. I decided I would attend. I would bring my father. I would watch. That night I told Daniel everything.
The whole story. The pie.
The driveway. The 11 years. I had never said it all out loud before. Not to anyone. Not even Elena. Daniel listened. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time.
Then he said, I did not know she said that.
I said, I know. That is why I did not tell you. I did not want you to have to choose. He looked at me. He said, I am choosing you. I said, I know. That is why I am telling you now. He asked what I was going to do at the party. I said I did not know yet. He asked if I wanted him to say something to his mother. I said no. He asked if I wanted him to say nothing. I said, I want you to be there. That is all. He nodded. I did not ask Daniel to confront his mother. I did not ask him to say anything at the party. I just wanted him to know. The rest was mine to handle. Or not handle. I had not decided yet. But the party was in 2 weeks. My father was coming. Margaret would be there. And for the first time in 11 years, I was not going to stand in the hallway holding a pie. I was going to walk into the kitchen. And I was going to see what happened. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I wanted to stop carrying the stone. And the only way to put it down was to let Margaret see it. Not the stone. The truth. My father. His company. Her husband's paycheck. All of it. Sitting in the same room. I did not know if she would recognize him. I did not know if she would remember what she said. But I was going to find out. And I was not going to hide in the hallway this time. The retirement party was at a rented hall on the edge of town. 50 people. Streamers. A cake that said, Happy Retirement Frank in blue icing. Frank was happy. Genuinely happy. He shook every hand. He told the same story about his first day at the company 3 times. Margaret was hosting. Circulating. Greeting. Performing the role of the gracious wife. She was good at that. My father arrived 20 minutes after we did. He is not flashy. He never has been. He wore a blue blazer and gray pants. He did not announce himself. He just walked in, found Frank, and shook his hand. They talked about old times. The early days. The 15 employees. The machine that broke down on a Friday and had to be fixed by Monday. Frank laughed. My father laughed. It was easy between them. 11 years of working together will do that. Then Margaret approached. She had a glass of white wine in her hand. She smiled at my father. She did not recognize him. She had met him before, at our wedding, at other family events, but she had forgotten. Or she never bothered to remember. People like Margaret remember what matters to them. My father had never mattered to her. She said, And who are you? Frank's colleague. My father smiled. He said, something like that. I used to own the company. Margaret blinked. Oh, which company? My father's smile did not change. The one Frank worked for 11 years. Margaret's face changed. Not dramatically.
Just a small shift.
A tightening around her mouth. She looked at me. I looked back. I did not help. I did not rescue. I just watched. She said, I didn't realize. You're the owner. My father said, I was. I'm retired now, but I always appreciated Frank. Good man. Margaret nodded. She did not apologize. She did not mention class. She said something about the buffet and walked away. I watched her go. The stone was still in my pocket. I had not thrown it, but I had taken it out. And Margaret had seen it. She had seen my father. She had heard the words, the owner. She had done the math. Her husband worked for this man's company for 11 years. His daughter was her daughter-in-law. And she had called that daughter's family classless. In her own kitchen. 11 years ago. I did not say, "You called my family classless." I did not mention the kitchen. I let the moment stand on its own. My father's presence was the statement. His kindness was the rebuttal. He did not know what Margaret had said. He never would. I was not going to tell him. He did not need to know. He just needed to be there. Being himself. That was enough. Margaret walked to the other side of the room. She started talking to someone else. She was smiling again. Performing again. I watched her. I wondered if she understood what just happened. If she was already telling herself a story about how my father was bragging about his success. How he was trying to make her feel small. That would be easier for her than the truth. The truth was that she had been small all along. She just did not know it until now. And I had not said a word. The party ended around 9. My father walked out with us. He was quiet in the parking lot. Then he asked, "Did something happen with Margaret?" She seemed nervous. I unlocked the car. I said she said something once. About our family. "I never told you." He asked what she said. I told him. The kitchen.
The pie.
The word class. He was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh. A tired one. The kind of laugh that comes from a lifetime of building something with your hands and watching other people decide it is not enough. He said, "She called us classless." While I was paying her husband's salary. I said, "For 11 years. He nodded. He said, "I did not know. I would have hired Frank anyway. He was good at his job. But I would have thought about it differently." I asked how. He said, "I would have wondered if she knew. And if she knew, why she did not tell him to quit." I did not answer. I did not tell him about the pie, about the driveway, about the 11 years I carried the stone in my pocket. He did not need to know. He already knows I carry things.
He taught me that.
Hold your tongue.
Keep the peace.
Do not make a scene. Those were his lessons. Good lessons for a daughter. Bad lessons for a woman who just heard her mother-in-law call her family classless while standing in her hallway. The difference is I am learning to put things down. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But I am learning. I told him the truth. That was putting something down.
He knows now.
What he does with it is his business. We got in the car. He did not say anything else. Neither did I. The drive home was quiet. I thought about Margaret. About her face when my father said the owner. About how she walked away without apologizing, without acknowledging. She will never apologize. I know that now. She will tell herself a story. That my father was bragging. That I was cold. That none of it was her fault. That is fine. She can tell herself whatever she needs to sleep at night. I am done carrying her story. I have my own now. And my own says that my father built a company from nothing. That her husband worked for him for 11 years. That she called my family classless from a kitchen my family paid for. Those are facts. They do not require her agreement. They just require me to stop pretending they are not true. I stopped pretending tonight. Not with a speech. Not with a confrontation. Just by showing up. By letting my father be himself. By letting Margaret see him. That was enough. That was everything. I'm over at where silence ends. Subscribe if any of this sounds familiar. The family dinner was at Daniel's parents' house. Months after the retirement party. Margaret had not mentioned my father since that night. Neither had I. We had settled into something that looked like normal but felt like waiting. I was not sure what I was waiting for. Until the wine. Margaret poured herself a glass from a bottle she said she had been saving. She held it up to the light. She said, "This is lovely." Where is it from? I answered before anyone else could. A vineyard in Sonoma. My father's company used to supply the grapes. The table went quiet. Frank stopped chewing.
Daniel looked at me.
Margaret stared. Her glass was still in her hand. She said, "Your father's company supplied grapes?" I said, "For 11 years. To that vineyard. And to others. He started in his garage. You probably do not remember." She set her glass down. She said, "I remember." I said, "Good. Then, you know my family has a lot of things. Class among them." Her jaw tightened. She said, "I never said." I said, "You did. 11 years ago. In your kitchen. I was standing in the hallway. I heard you. I have never told anyone. Until now. I am telling you now." Margaret's face drained of color. Not slowly. All at once. Frank looked at her. He did not look surprised. He looked tired, like he had been waiting for something like this for a long time. Daniel stared at the table. He did not look up. He did not need to. He knew what I was doing. He had known since I told him in the living room. I kept talking.
I said my family built something.
Your family worked for it. There is no shame in either of those things. But there is shame in pretending one is better than the other. You did that. And I have been quiet for 11 years. I am not going to be quiet anymore. Margaret did not speak. Frank reached for his water glass. Daniel still did not look up. I sat back. I did not wait for an apology. I did not need one. I had said what I needed to say. The rest was not my responsibility. She could apologize or she could leave the table. She could pretend this conversation never happened. She could tell herself I was being dramatic. None of that mattered to me anymore. What mattered was that I had finally said it. Out loud. In front of people. The stone was no longer in my pocket. It was on the table, right next to the wine. Margaret could look at it or look away. That was her choice. I had already made mine. Margaret left the table without a word. She pushed her chair back and walked into the kitchen. The door swung shut behind her. Frank stood up.
He looked at me.
He looked at Daniel. Then he followed her. The door swung again. Daniel stayed. He reached over and took my hand. He did not say anything. Neither did I. The table was still full of food. Half-eaten lasagna. The bottle of wine. The glass Margaret had set down. The stone was on the table now. I could feel it even though I could not see it. My phone buzzed. My father. "How was dinner?" I texted back. "Interesting. I'll tell you tomorrow." He sent a thumbs up. That was it. That was my father. He did not push. He waited. We drove home in silence. Daniel was quiet. I was quiet. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was the silence of something ended. Not our marriage. Not our family. Just the long, quiet holding of a thing that should have been said years ago. Daniel spoke first. He said, "I didn't know she said that." "I believe you." I said, "I know." He asked, "Are you okay?" I thought about it. I said, "I will be. I have been carrying that for 11 years. It is lighter now. Not gone, but lighter." He nodded. He did not ask what I thought of his mother. He did not defend her. He did not apologize for her. He just sat next to me and drove. His silence was his answer. He was not leaving. He was not taking sides. He was just sitting with his wife. That was enough. I thought about Elena's question. The difference between holding a grudge and holding the truth. I had not thrown the stone tonight. I had placed it on the table. That was different. That was not violence. That was truth. And truth, placed quietly, is harder to ignore than a shout. Margaret could leave the table. She could close the kitchen door. She could tell herself I was cruel or dramatic or both. But she could not unsay what she said 11 years ago. And she could not unhear what I said tonight. The truth was on the table. She could look at it or look away. That was her choice. I had already made mine. The car pulled into our driveway. Daniel turned off the engine. We sat there for a minute. Then we went inside. I did not know what happened to a family when a secret kept for 11 years was finally spoken. I did not know if it would break or bend. But I knew I was not the one who broke it. The break happened the moment Margaret opened her mouth in that kitchen. I just stopped pretending the pieces were not on the floor. Frank called my father a week later.
Daniel told me.
His father wanted to apologize. Not for Margaret, Frank made that clear. He was not going to apologize for his wife. He was apologizing for not knowing, for not asking, for assuming that what happened in the kitchen stayed in the kitchen. My father called me after. He said Frank apologized. Asked what he said. My father said Frank told him. I should have known what she was saying. My father said he told Frank, "You were a good employee. That's all I cared about." Frank asked if that was enough. My father said, "It has to be." I thought about that for a long time. It has to be. Not because forgiveness is required. Because holding on to the rest would cost more than I was willing to pay. Frank did not say the words in the kitchen. Frank worked for my father for 11 years. Frank showed up every day and did his job. That was not nothing. That was something. I decided that something was enough. I called Elena. I told her I did not know if Margaret would ever apologize. I did not know if I cared. Elena asked if I needed her to. I said I needed to stop carrying it. That was all I needed. And I did. I put it down. I did not tell Elena what I said at the dinner. I did not need to. Elena knows. She has always known. She was the one who told me 11 years ago that I should say something. I did not listen. It took me 11 years. But I listened eventually. That is not failure. That is a long arc. And arcs, I have learned, bend toward the truth. Eventually. I stood in my kitchen last night. The same kitchen where I once made a pie I never served. The stone is gone. I put it down. Not dramatically. Not with a speech.
I just stopped carrying it.
I told the truth. The truth did not explode the family. It just made some things visible. Frank sees his wife differently now. Daniel sees his mother differently. I see myself differently. I am not classless. I am not silent. I was just waiting. For 11 years. For the right moment. For the right words. For the courage to say what I should have said the first time I heard those words in a kitchen that was not mine. I said them. The world did not end. Margaret did not apologize. But the stone is gone. And that, I have decided, is enough. That is not victory. That is the difference between carrying someone else's insult and setting it down on the table where everyone can see it. I set it down. I walked away. And I did not look back. That is not class. That is something better. That is peace. I'm over at where silence ends. Have you ever carried a word someone said about your family and waited years to put it down?